Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 209, and we're going to talk about value versus cost and finding that ideal client. And I have an awesome guest. His name is Cliff Gager, and he's been in real estate for longer than dirt has been invented. So, welcome, Cliff, and thanks for being here.
Hey, Rob, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our little interview here.
No, I mean, I went on your website and you've been in probably real estate for about 30 years. You teach it, you wholesale it, you flip it, and one of the things that I found interesting, just glancing at your website, is that one of the philosophies that you teach is finding that ideal client. And for those that know me, know in my past life, I had a cleaning business, and a lot of my initial clients were realtors, were real estate investors. And there's a difference between a realtor and a real estate investor, and it's the mindset. And I think that sometimes people get confused, but the real estate investors always made more money. They valued me better. They treated me better. They referred me to people that had more money versus the realtor who was only looking out for him or her.
For the cheap way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my career history, I started flipping houses. That's how I pretty much got it. Well, I actually started in the mortgage business, but I ended up flipping houses because I looked too young. And the real estate agents back then in Florida in the 90s, they were in their 90s.
Mhm.
So, anybody in their 20s was just a snotty-nosed kid, and they didn't want to hand their business over to me. So I had to hustle. So I learned how to find my client through a very harsh reality of finding people that wanted to do business with me.
Mhm.
And that's what most people don't realize is they try to use the shotgun method. They try to get everybody to do business with them. And throughout, I'd say 25 years of my career, I thought that way, the shotgun method. Everybody wants to do business with me. But when I figured out that other investors at the time wanted their deals to close, they didn't care what I looked like, how old I was, whatever, just as long as I could perform and do the job well,
Mhm.
I actually charged them more than I would the average client because they didn't care. They wanted it to get done.
Right.
And as I got older in the business, I reverted back to that whole shotgun thing, and it doesn't work. You have to know who your client is. And when you do figure out who your client is, your advertising costs go down because you're directing it to a specific person.
Mhm.
Hopefully you're not in a highly competitive place, but it's easy to get in front of them when you know who you're trying to get in front of. It's really expensive to advertise shotgun style. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, because people will click on your stuff, or they'll go to your webpage, or they'll look at your webinar or whatever. And, that's eating up your resources, but they are never going to buy from you.
Well, and you're typically, when you do that, you're competing against every other person who's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
In my cleaning days, I used to do the same thing, and I finally got frustrated, and I said, this is not working. Let me just pick a neighborhood that I want to dominate, and
Exactly.
I would send out postcards to every person in that neighborhood, and as things would progress, people would call me up and, hey, come on out, and then the neighbors would see me coming out, and then
Yeah.
they would refer me, and so I built up that business, getting laser focused, and then asking for referrals, and then I'd grow from one community to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was a lot easier to do that than to do shotgun marketing that didn't work.
And the really neat thing was with the investor side of it versus the realtor side. Like you said, the realtors wanted it cheap, and the investors, they just wanted it done right so they could move the property and sell it. They also had friends that were investors that would say, hey, this is the guy that you want to do your mortgage work.
Mhm.
And I did that for many years, did really well, built myself out of that, owned a real estate office, owned a mortgage company, all that stuff. Got into the seminar business because I like to teach people. I got to mention your Facebook page. I just love it, because you're educating people in the way that you're doing things, and you're showing how other people think from a base of need, a base of scarcity, a base of, oh my God, you've got to do business with me because I'm the greatest thing there ever was. But yet you don't even know who they are because they don't travel in the same realm. The real estate business is the same way. The educational side is the same way. I was talking the other day, there's a particular person that would come to like all of my training sessions. And at the end of the training session, I would pitch my coaching. I would make it available. If you wanted my coaching, you wanted my attention, on your deals and whatnot, here's the way it works, and here's the price and everything. He literally, at that moment, he would know when I would be going into it because he was at all of my events. He would literally pack up all his stuff like a rat trying to escape the ship, and then run out the door. And he was an attorney that probably had a net worth of $15-20 million, but would, and never put a deal together. And so I don't understand how, someone with that intelligence and that knowledge base would be so cheap to think that you can get from the free stuff enough to build a business. So it was just, the same thing, like you said, when you work with these people with scarcity in their mindset, it's almost impossible to get them to move. And the smart thing to do is to understand that they're in that frame, maybe try to help them get out of it, but probably you're not going to be able to. So focus your dollars and your marketing on.
And if you're a realtor and you're watching this, I'm not.
Oh, no, yeah.
No, I'm not trying to push you down. I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong. What I'm trying to say is that, and from my standpoint, I look at the world and probably everybody does this. There might be 100 competitors in your area, 100 realtors, probably thousands, but only less than 1% are actually making money.
Yes.
Is that you? Are you the one making money? Great. If you are, awesome. But most times you're not. And the statistic for a realtor is what? $1,000 a year, $2,000?
Oh no, the national average is like 25,000 to 30,000 a year for the national average.
Yeah.
And I mean, I live in California where you make a $200,000 commission,
Yeah. But the ones starting out, they just don't have the money, and they're getting into this, and the real estate office might be paying them, something, just to get started. And they don't stick with it.
I'll nail it. I owned a real estate office. I hired hundreds, if not thousands, of realtors on a rotational basis because I know that a lot of them aren't going to do well. I would give them more than the franchised, I'll just say that, type real estate office. I would give them more marketing and stuff, and I would teach them how to do the certain things. And some of them would get it and some of them won't. But it all goes back to that mindset of I'm broke, I don't have any money. They work out of that mindset. And the funniest thing out of all of this is when you're working with a real estate agent as an investor, and I hear it today, is you can't buy houses at a discount. And I explained to them, that's all I ever done. All the thousands of houses that I bought, fixed, sold, or whatever, I've always bought them somewhere around 60% of market value in every type of market, because the individual that's selling the property isn't related to the market or the industry. It's related to that person. Yeah. And one fact, a deal that I just missed, I missed a $60 million commercial property. And I was not online to get it, but I was in the track to purchase that. And it sold for $400,000 at auction. Mm. And I mean, legit. I mean, it's in the newspapers and everything. It literally sold debt-free for $400,000. And it was a $60 million debt load that they wrote off. So when people tell me you can't get good deals on real estate, it's usually the real estate agents who are living in this world that they're being taught by their brokers. So SEO work, what the stuff that you do is the most important thing that a real estate agent should do. I mean, if you're a real estate agent,
and here's the thing that we'll go to SEO, but one of the things that I try to teach everybody when it comes to SEO is don't talk industry terms, because
right,
your consumer, your customer is not searching industry terms. They're searching from a place of panic or frustration or irritation or desire.
Yeah.
And they have no concept of the words that you use. And all these realtors are putting all these industry terms in their websites, and nobody's getting found.
Because people don't think that way. You have to think like your consumer. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk. You mentioned franchise. Let's talk about franchise, because just like McDonald's, everybody wants to get into a McDonald's because they know that they're going to make money. But the average McDonald's franchise owner needs to have $1 million to be able to get into to open a store. Whereas, a real estate franchise may not need that much. Maybe only needs $30,000.
Yeah.
But is it any better than opening up your own? Going back for me, going to opening up my carpet cleaning business in 1995, I chose to be independent because I looked at everybody and went, I'm not paying franchise fees. That's just so. And then I got to deal with their marketing, which is dumb. And to me, it's just I guess it's an easy way out because they know that there's systems in place.
Yeah.
But you're limited in scope to what you can do or can say, or extra deals that you may not be able to do on the side.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you said franchise. I just read the history of Howard Johnson's yesterday. And if you haven't, it's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But the success that Howard Johnson, the actual person, had wasn't the fact that he had these restaurants everywhere and the hotels everywhere. It was the fact that each franchisee was mandated to buy all the food, materials, pencils, papers, and everything from him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the FTC even got involved in it because he was charging like 30, 40, 50% more for eggs than they could buy the eggs down the street.
Right.
And they were mandated to buy the eggs. They're out of business,
right.
But he had a 40-year run. So, he was doing something right. But I think about that with the independent like broker versus a broker that's a nameplate broker. Yes, you do get a lot of stuff out of that, but the average person coming in doesn't understand. Like you said, they don't know the nomenclature. They don't know the terms and policies and all of that. All they want to do is go out and make money and hopefully list a house or sell a house or help somebody buy a house. And they don't understand marketing.
Right.
And the job of a real estate agent is marketing a property for sale. And then, they have no clue how to do that. And they weigh in on, well, my company will put it on the website. My company will do this with the newspaper and that. And maybe I'll do an open house, which open houses never sell houses. Trust me.
I sold a couple houses, not as a realtor, as an independent. They were family members. And I kept telling them, I said, don't have open houses when everybody else is having an open house. Have an open house on a Tuesday or a Thursday. You're the only person doing it. And I got my aunt to do that, and people showed up. She sold the house right away
because they were serious buyers. They weren't looky-loos.
Yeah, and all you're going to do on a Sunday is when most everybody's having their open house is they're just tire kickers.
Yeah, all of them. I would say a vast majority of them. But then where you and I would get a list of those people coming in, somehow capture their information. Most agents will be like, here's my card. Call me if you ever need me. So it's the marketing aspect that they should, if you're listening now and you're a real estate agent and you're just getting into the business, learn marketing, because that's what's going to make you a successful real estate investor. Real estate agent.
What I've also noticed is that once you start becoming known, because your personality is your brand, and as a independent realtor, basically that's what you are. Even though you might be working for a franchise, or you're the one building up your career,
Yeah.
and people start to recognize you. And as they start to recognize you, they're going to feel trust in you and feel safe, and
Yeah.
and they're going to want to, hey, represent us and sign and do this. That's great. The problem is that if you're working for someone else, they will limit your growth. And once
Yes.
that happens, you got to move.
One of the things that drives me crazy is when I was in the seminar business, I did the back end fulfillment. You know, the guys would come in with the big seminars and the hotels and the fancy suits and the Rolexes and all that. And they would tell you everything that you needed to hear to make you want to buy their program. And you'd buy it for 40, 50,000 bucks. I was the guy that would show up and teach you that class, the one that you bought. And the interesting thing that I found was the person sitting in the audience wanted to do one thing, which was buy houses, fix them up, and sell them. They had no experience whatsoever. They didn't know anything. But what I found is all they had was that drive to want to do it. So if you want to do something, you can educate yourself and learn how to do something, which I helped a lot of people do that. But the funny thing on the seminar side was I would make a lot of money teaching these classes. At one point, I owned my own company that I subcontracted to these people, and I did their classes for them. So they would go through like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or anywhere, you know, and I think I did one in Harrisburg. And they would come through there, and then I would go there, or one of my employees would go there and teach the class. Well, I got $5,000 per head for each person that was in the training, and we'd have 10 people in there, so 50,000 bucks. And then I was doing 5 of those per week.
Wow.
So, and the margin on it for me was, my cost on that was about 10 overall. So I was doing pretty good, you know. So when everybody says those who can do and those who can't teach, I'll teach too, because there's really good money in it. But what I found was, back at the home office, they're seeing the checks that they're writing out to me, and they're like, oh my God, this guy's making more money than, well, I wasn't, but it seemed like, you know, you're writing me $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a week checks, and, you know, you see this big outgo, but they seem to forget that they made millions of dollars to get that to happen, you know? So one person's fee out of 10 was what it cost them. And they wanted to reduce that one down to like nothing and still get the same results. You can't. You got to understand that you know, I was the product in the training, and I gave them exceptional results, but yet they still had this mindset of, oh my God, he's getting paid $400,000 a week. So what? You just brought in, let's see, $5 million on that. So yeah, it makes me laugh when, because you just said it, is the franchisee will get pissed off because you're making more money than they are. And any good real estate agent or a real estate investor will always make more money than the other people around them. And instead of, I call it the bucket of crabs. They're all in the hot water. One's starting to get out, and he is almost out. And what do the other ones do? They grab him and pull him back in.
Yeah.
So it's just, you got to rise above that. You've got to understand exactly what you're doing, know who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, know what they want, and then just direct your business to that. It's hard when you pitch somebody and give them everything that they want for them to say no.
Yeah. I mean, and people ask me, hey, why do you write books? Why do you put your content out there? Why do you do all this stuff? It builds trust. And yeah, a lot of my stuff is out there. You can read it for free. You can do all kinds of stuff. But here's the thing. When you come to me and you want help, I insist that you go buy my books.
Yeah.
Because I want you to have skin in the game. I want you to understand who I am, what I do, how I do it. And then when you come to me for coaching, you're more in line with my thinking. You understand my sarcasm. You understand the method to my madness.
Yeah.
And then you'll have better success in achieving your goals. You don't do any of that stuff, you don't invest in me, guess what? Your success is limited to your own mental mind, your
The biggest,
mindset.
it's true, because like, you do coaching, I do coaching. One of the things that people say is at one point in time, I was charging $20,000, but I would coach you for a year,
Mhm.
and people are like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. I says, okay, let's figure this out. If you pay me $20,000 for the year to be your personal coach, and I mean, I'd fly to their house anywhere in the United States, and I'd sit with them for a week, and I'd get them going, build up their business, get it started, and all pretty much turnkey. All they had to do was follow through.
Mhm.
If they paid $1,000 and I did that, no skin in the game. Oh, hey, let's go to the park this weekend instead of going and looking for houses, because they're going to have this little orchestra thing happening there, and
Mhm.
I'd rather see that. But if you paid $20,000, you'd be like, hey, I'm not going to that. I've got work to do, and people don't realize sometimes that is what makes or breaks them.
Mhm.
If you're broke and you've got to pay the light bill, you're not going to watch TV today. You're
Yeah,
going to do
yeah.
something. You're going to go sell something out of the garage. You're going to have a yard sale. I mean, if you're broke, I mean,
Well, and a lot of people understand my story, or they maybe not understand it, but they've heard it enough times. And that was in 1998. I was a dead broke carpet cleaner, and I was struggling, and it's like I didn't have two pennies to pinch together. It's like, what? And then I get this article, this ad in a cleaning magazine. Hey, come to Arizona, go to this seminar, learn from Joe Polish and all these, Dan Kennedy and all these great guys.
oh, Dan Kennedy, I like Dan.
And I'm like, yeah, but it costs money. I don't have money. And I had to charge on credit cards and live on credit cards for a while. But I went there blindly,
Yeah,
and I'm glad I did,
yeah.
because the stuff that I learned
One little
instantly,
thing.
yeah, and it instantly turned my mindset around. I was starting to make money. I increased all my prices. I started doing things that and my competitors started copying my stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah,
but they didn't understand what they were copying, and so
right.
they within months they stopped doing it because it wasn't working for them.
Wasn't working for them. Yeah.
And
It's funny, because people think they watch, well, just carpet cleaning. I mean, you got to deal with people in their best position when their carpet's filthy.
yeah,
Ah,
but here's the ironic twist of everything is that a lot of those early people that I learned marketing from
yeah,
20 some years ago are my clients now.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's
and so the student becomes the master,
yes,
and I've written all these books. And when I started writing books, it was like I just wanted to educate people. I just wanted to let them know, hey, this is what I can do. This is why I'm doing it. And I started sharing out these stories about the scammers and whatnot. People said that needs to be a book. And so I said, okay, let's assemble one. And I put it out
yeah.
there, and people are like, this is awesome. And now it's a whole series, and maybe even a future TV show. We're working on that.
I'll watch that show.
But here's the thing is that I took action.
Yeah,
I did stuff,
yeah.
and people look at me, well, Rob, you're like an overnight success. Yeah, it took 22 years. Come on now.
20 years of overnights.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm the same thing, and it's like every day is a struggle. Every day you're still trying to maintain it. It does get I'm not gonna lie. It does get easier, when you're making $400,000 a week.
But here's the thing is that easier means also knowing who your ideal client is. You can
Absolutely.
say no.
Yeah.
When I was a struggling carpet cleaner, I took every single job I
Every
needed
single
because
job.
I had to pay bills. That was
Yes.
my mindset.
Correct.
Now I can say, dude, F off. I don't need your job. I don't
Yeah.
need your work. You're too much of a hassle. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I always teach people. The lower the price, the more hassles involved.
Amen.
And so,
It's true.
elevate that mindset and think that, is this job really worth it? Is the money I'm going to make on this, enough?
Yeah.
Usually when you say it's not, you can go to something better, a better opportunity, and it's going to pay you 10 times more.
One of the cool things about my investing is I broke everything down into margins and percentages, because it's a business. It's not, there's no emotional aspect to rehabbing a house. It's, does it need this, this is what it costs. Here's what the percentage over looking over 20, 30 years of doing it. You can put an algorithm together and make it math, and it works every time. And one of the things that I found interesting is if you do $100,000 house, it's going to cost you 12%, right? So whatever the math is, 12,000 bucks. If you do $1 million house, it's going to cost you 120,000. It's easier to do the $1 million house than it is to do the $100,000 house. And it's all relative, as far as materials and whatnot. But one of the biggest mistakes is uneducated people without any history or knowledge or experience. They watch a TV show, which, I'm not discrediting the TV shows. They're entertainment, and they're not edutainment. They're entertainment. So, being behind the scenes on a couple of those shows, what happens is they don't care if the countertop costs $35,000. They have an agreement with the countertop manufacturer to put it in the show. And if they lose money on the show house that they sell, it doesn't matter, because they got $1 million for the production of the show. And what happens is people out there in the real world, they watch the show and they think, I've got to put that countertop in the house in order to sell it. And, I always explain to people, it's the appraiser who's going to look at it that's going to give you the value of the house. And he's going to look at that and he's going to say, this house with the Formica has a countertop. This house with a granite countertop has a countertop. It's a countertop.
Right.
Both of them are countertops. Checks it off on the box, doesn't increase the value.
I remember, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, we went to refinance this house, and I have a 6-bedroom home. Well, there's not many 6-bedroom homes, so they got to go to comps, and they got to comp it. They went to a town that's 20 miles away, that's run down, and I'm like, you guys are idiots. Instead of saying it's a 6-bedroom house, saying it's a 3-bedroom home with a library, a weight room, and this, and they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And my comps went way up, and I'm like, yeah, that's how you do it.
I don't know why, but I think the biggest difficulty in my business on the education side is people want to think they know everything. And I know you get that in your business too.
I do know everything. Thank you.
No. Your client thinks they know everything. And so when they're talking to you, you don't know what you're talking about because they're the client, And like you said, those are the ones that you go, no, I don't want to do business with you. But we're not looking for dumb people. We're looking for people that want to take the opportunity that's in front of them and maximize it. And that's what you do. And that's what I do. And it's fun. It's really fun when you do click with somebody and everything's working, like, the marketing's going just perfectly. And the client, I heard somebody one time say, if I can show you how you can spend $100 and make $1,000 on that $100 of ad spend or whatever it is, what would you do tomorrow? And the typical person is going to say, well, if I spent $100, I'm going to spend $200. and my thoughts are, I'm going to see if I can get a loan for $1 million, to buy $1 million, if it's going to work that well. So people have to realize, what works, run with it, because it, just like the real estate market, it's changing right now. Everybody's like, oh my God, I lived through the 80s, man.
My first house that I bought, I didn't go through a bank and I didn't go through a realtor. We found this listing and I approached the person and I said, look, will you finance it to me for the first year? I had just started a job. So the bank's not going to look at me. They're going to say, hey, you haven't been established enough at this job, so we can't give you. So I said, look, I'll give you 10% down. You finance it to me. Within a first year, I will get a mortgage at a bank, and then we'll go from there.
And she probably did a refi.
Yeah, and she thought about it, and she's like, okay, let's do it. She was out of town. I'm up here. We went through a lawyer. We took it. That after a year, I went to the bank. Bank goes, "You got enough equity. You don't have to put any more money down. You're good to go."
Yeah, the broker, the mortgage person well, it's probably an employee. They probably processed your deal as a refinance rather than a purchase, which on a refinance, it's the high jump is a lot lower in order to go through that deal. Plus, you don't have to have the down payment. You don't, a lot of the restrictions that they've applied to a purchase go down on a refi because you're already there.
Right.
And
What gets me is that you can still do those same deals now
today is even
than I
easier.
could all those yeyears ago. But realtors are like, "No, you can't do that. You got to go through us. You got to do this. You got to do FHA. And then they're throwing all this stuff to you, and are you just going, okay, I'll do it your way? And I'm like, no, stop. But
that's going back to what I said earlier. Is realtors tell me, Cliff, you can't buy houses like that, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. You can't buy houses like that. And they don't even get, I flipped that and said, yeah, you can't buy houses like I do it all day long. But it's really hard to help people that don't want to understand, and I'm real political. I won't get into it, but I know of a story in Russia. The KGB went to this town, and it's online. You can read about it. And they lied to this town about something. This was, before the internet and probably, probably didn't have TVs there. But this little town, they went to them and they told them this lie. And I forget what the lie was. And they told them that lie for 3 months, just pounding it that this happened and it was a lie. And then they went back after 3 months and they said, look, we're the KGB. We came here. We're doing an experiment. We told you this lie for 3 months, and now we're telling you that it was a lie. The people wouldn't believe them, and they would believe the lie. So what you have to understand is people will believe the lie more than the truth, even if you put it in their face. And that's why there's successful people in marketing. That's why there's unsuccessful people in marketing and real estate investing, and unsuccessful is because they just want to believe the lie that there's only one way to do things. And I use land trust to own property because my name's not in it, and I can assign the beneficial interest to you over 30 years like a mortgage. So it's like a lease option, but I'm doing it legally. And then with the trust, I go to closing and the title company will say, we can't insure you. The title policy on a trust. And I'm like, do you know how many properties are owned in a trust? And so then I have to go educate their attorney. And the funniest thing is I use an Illinois-based trust, which is a lawful item, and Chicago title is in Illinois. And a lot of times I'll get on the phone with one of their lawyers and have to explain to them that it's legal. I'm like, you live in Illinois. Come on.
Most of the celebrities and most of the political characters out there have everything in trust because they don't want to get sued. And if they do get sued, they don't want to have all their assets taken away from them.
The coolest thing is I tell people, I don't own any property. And they're like, oh, but you're this big real estate investor. Yeah, that's right. Go look me up, search public records, find a house that I own. And if you can have it. I'll give it to you. But, that's right. If I'm in Walmart or if I'm in Costco and I hit you in the leg with my cart and you're a ballerina dancer for New York Ballet and I destroy your career, I'm going to get sued. And if I've got 500 properties as rental properties in my name, guess what? They've got a case. And then they call my attorney and say, hey, we're going to sue your guy for $10 million. And my attorney says, well, why don't we just settle out of court for $1 million? Because that's how they work.
Right.
Let's not do any work. Oh, well, we'll make it sound like it's a really good deal to get this $1 million. And then the $1 million gets paid. I'm happy because I didn't lose $9 million, but I still had to pay. if I don't own any property, they're going to look at their client and say, geez, you just don't have a case.
Yeah.
And that's the whole aspect of owning in a trust. In addition to, Rob, if you want to buy my house, I can sell it to you on a contract for beneficial interest. That deal stays right. I'm opening my drawer of files here. That stays right here and nobody else knows about it except you and me.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't have to worry about X's. You don't have to worry about lawsuits, cases, old things like that. And it's 100% legal. And a lot of people won't do it because they don't understand it. Once they understand it, that's all they'll ever do, But it's really hard to explain some things to people. If you're listening to the podcast, the main aspect is to understand, to increase your knowledge. If you want to get into business and have a decent business, you've got to market it properly. Rob is the premier expert at helping you do that. You might not agree with what he's saying, but that's why he's doing what he's doing, and he's got the success into it. Just like with my real estate investing business. If you want to learn how to be a real estate investor, I teach you exactly what to do. And when you look at it, you're going to be like, that's crazy. That's not going to work. And I'll give you, at least 50 million reasons why it does work.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well,
So
it's early on in my career, I would be doing some marketing that, like giving away a free room of carpet cleaning or guaranteeing my cleaning 200%. I mean, who does that? But the thing is that made me different.
yeah,
That propelled me into, as the authority in that area. And all my competitors were like, you're doing some shady shit. And I'm like, no, I'm protecting my client beyond, anything. And
right.
if they don't like what I'm doing, not only do I give them their money back, but I'll pay somebody else to go in there
and clean it.
My competitors are like, you can't do that. And they would complain to the Better Business Bureau. They would go all the news.
Really? Oh, that's funny.
Then the newspaper came, Rob, you're doing this stuff. Can we give you a write-up? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it would burn them in the butt because, it just, the competitors were just crybabies. And,
Yeah.
and I don't say that meanly. I just say that because if you don't understand something, why cry about it? Why not go learn the method and see, hey, is this actually working? How does this work? Implement it into your own business. There's a lot of things that I've done over the last, 27 years of being an entrepreneur that the average person would say, you can't do that.
Well, it's funny is people criticize Elon Musk because they think he does stupid things.
No, he doesn't do stupid. Everything he does is all planned out. It's all factored. And everybody's like, well, he's going to lose his shit on Twitter. Oh my God. You know what? He's already got that planned out. That's a chess move so far.
Yes. Because of the bots. I mean, he posted a picture of him laughing and it says, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was about, I backed out of my deal because of all the Twitter bots. And now they're suing me because they wouldn't say it in public. But now they're going to have to say it in court.
Yeah. And the thing is Twitter already went after, Elon threatened to buy them.
Yeah.
Twitter went in and fired half their executives, which now Twitter is making some money because they weren't paying all the execs.
That's crazy.
Just by the influence that Elon Musk has, Twitter is going to be a better company.
Yes. And if they do, hold hard on trying to thwart his efforts, it'll bury it. Yeah. It'll fail because people buy the affluence of all those users. And if all their users are fake, then, if 50% of it is fake and it's worth $53, well, if 50% of it's fake, it's worth $25. And I mean, if you really look at the play that he did, that's what he's doing.
Yeah. And honestly, he's not buying a social media network. He's buying the data.
Platform. Yeah, and a platform.
And because once you understand that, hey, he's buying the list, he's buying the data,
algorithm.
he can make that thing so much better. He can market it to his Tesla users. He can market it over here to Boring and all his different companies.
Yeah.
And it gives him just an enormous platform that he can modify.
And people forget he's got the satellite internet thing, which ties right into that, and what a better, if you have a platform with 1 billion users and you can go on there and tweet something for free that goes out to 1 billion users, that would cost you and I hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars to do. And if you own the platform, you do it for free. Facebook does it. Mark Zuckerberg will post something and he can sway your opinion either way to his desire with one posting. And it cost him nothing to do that except for the few seconds that it takes him to type it up. Now you got to understand it took years and years to build up the platform to get to that point. But where Elon is buying Twitter is not just so he can own Twitter. It's that platform of being able to, hey, my car has this new feature on it. And he types that into Twitter and 1 billion people now know about it. Ford has to pay, or Chevy has to pay, or Dodge has to pay $10 million to an advertising firm on top of their ad cost, to do the same thing. So it's marketing is a funny tool. And it's, if you know what you're doing with it, it can make or break you,
Yeah. And
I wish I would have learned that 30 years ago.
Well, it's funny because if you look at the grand scheme of things, marketing is not allocated to one industry. No. What marketing concept you're using in a plumbing business or carpet cleaning business or real estate, you can use everywhere. You just have to tweak the wording, the concepts, and it's valid everywhere. And people don't understand it. Oh, what that guy's doing in his plumbing business is I can't do it in my lawyer business.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
The customer thinks the same, whether they're buying plumbing services or they're buying legal services. And you have to know what that person is thinking in order to attract them, like we were talking before the interview here is the aspect of understanding your ideal client, and if you don't understand your ideal client, you're never going to get the success in the marketing. And that's what you're an expert at is I've dealt with people like you in the past that, you go to these events and they have the booth and they have all the sparkly things. And I'm like, oh, yay, this guy's going to be it, or this girl's going to be it. And they always, I can tell if they're going to be good or not. If they're good, they're going to ask me, who is your ideal client? That's their first question. And if they go on from there, I know I've got somebody that's smart. But if I sit down with them on that first call or first meeting or whatever, and they never ask me that question, most of their time will be spent telling me how great they are.
Right.
And I know immediately right there that they don't understand me. They can't understand me. They can't understand my client. And whether I'm selling real estate investments, whether I'm selling financial investments, whether I'm selling educational materials, then basically, if they don't know what I'm selling and they don't know the person that's interested in that, they can't do the marketing for me. But you're right, it does have a thread that goes through all of it, that if you know how to sell carpet services, you can sell anything, right?
And here's the thing is that I came from a cleaning industry, and now I've produced over 36 books in 9 years. And if I can do that, you guys can do that. I wholeheartedly think that everybody should be out there writing a book, getting their name out there, promoting themselves in a way that makes them not necessarily more money, but more authority. And that's exactly what you're trying to do.
Now that's one thing that I failed in doing, is writing a book. I got probably 17 of them in my head already. But you said do you help people write their books? Is that something that you do?
I do. Yes.
because you said the most
I mean,
important.
I don't do pop-up books, but
Right. Well, I'm just saying, you said one of the most important things in our conversation, which was you had this material, let's assemble a book.
right.
And that's the key is you have a book
Yeah, it's
in
all in your head.
it's all in your head.
Or you've already, and most people who have been in business for more than a few years have already been asked 100 questions by their clients. Just
Yeah,
assemble them questions into
your book.
a book.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's it.
it could be, 50 ways or something, how to select the best carpet cleaner, how to do this, how to do, a couple of years ago, I helped a great, fantastic realtor with their book down in Florida. She has since passed, but I did a great interview with her. You go back, watch the interview I did with Lisa Kennedy. It's the very beginning of the eHeroes podcast. She came out with a book called The $1 Million Model. I actually wrote the foreword to it. But she selected a certain type of clientele, and that's all she did. She didn't go after the whole world. She went
Right.
after a certain niche. She made money. She got a great reputation, and she took that knowledge, that content, and made a book.
Yeah. I wish I would have made a book 20 years ago. There's a lot of things that you can look back and say, oh, I wish I would have done that. I think the book would have been probably, or multiple books by now. I'm going to start. You've inspired me to do that. So I've got one, and I wish I could tell you the title, but I don't have a copy written or anything, but you'll know it when you see it. But it'll be really good.
Well,
But
and here's one of the easier ways to write a book is that if you have a podcast, like we're doing right now.
yeah,
I have the eHeroes podcast.
yeah,
Now, you do the Zoom like we're doing,
yeah,
and you put the video out there. You have the video transcribed, and a typical 1 hour video will provide, probably half the book right
Yeah.
there in transcript.
yeah,
But you turn it in, if you take those individual questions, you turn them into individual podcast episodes, and then you take 50 of those episodes or 52, you got a book. I mean, I have a realtor now. We're producing volume 4 of his next book, and they're all based on his podcast episodes.
that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't do a podcast either. I was busy, making money doing stuff. And when COVID hit, that completely changed my industry. The seminar industry is gone. I mean, it's
coming back.
Well, and I'll give you an explanation. I would go out and speak for 90 minutes at some location, wherever. And out of that 90 minutes, I would sell a $500 product or $1,000 product. And I would walk out of there with 15, 20 sales.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I would have a 1-day event where I would bring those people to a 1-day event, and I would teach them something really amazing for that 1 day. And at the end of the day, I would pitch them something for $2,500 or 5,000 or 20,000, whatever, I was in the mood for it the day. And I would walk away on a monthly basis, somewhere like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 from that business.
Mm-hmm.
Since COVID, I've done 2 events, and it's been really hard to do the events because it's like nobody knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And the one event, I think I made $1,500 on, and then this last one I made like $6,000. But people don't realize it costs me, if I have to travel, $3,000 or $4,000 just to get there.
Right.
So I tried doing the online thing, but it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to keep people's attention.
Yeah.
And, because with, you can pause your screen or whatever, and you can go clean the house and do other things. And that's what people would do. And so they really weren't catching the grift of the importance of the knowledge that I can transfer to them. So it was really, something that I could sell for $1,500, I couldn't sell online for $39. And I'm just making that up, but I'm just saying as an idea. but it's good that it's coming back. But after doing it for 20 years, I'm tired, and COVID has made me lazy. So now I'm starting to do webinars, which I've never done webinars before. And webinars are really fun. I get to do the meeting, like if I traveled, all the way to New York and stayed in a hotel the night before, and then do the event and then fly out, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But I get to do the webinar, and I can really focus on delivering quality rather than worrying about room service and did they get my room clean? Oh, my flight's late. And today travel is worse than it was before.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I think in 20 years,
not even gonna get started on airline travel right now.
I started flying like professionally, in the business in like 98, 99. And I bet you in that amount of time, and I was flying every week, like everywhere. And I think in that time period, I think I might have had situations where I had to stay overnight, or they had to buy me a room or something, like a missed flight or a canceled flight, maybe 2, 3 times, 4 times. Since COVID, now I go to Florida to see my grandkid, and I might travel. I think I've flown 4 times since.
And they're late. They don't cost you anything.
Nothing.
They lose your luggage.
All my status is gone.
Yeah.
All of it. And I mean, I spent 20 years to become a certain elite standard, and I was one down below flagship on American. I think it was platinum something. And that's gone. And it's like, would you like to fly this to get silver? Or, I'm like, no. Yeah. I'll just take the best flight and the cheapest first class ticket. That's what I'm doing from now on. And there's no loyalty whatsoever. So they in saving money have lost their loyal base, and they don't care.
It's in April, my wife and I went down to Florida, and our plane was delayed. Then we got into Charlotte, and our next flight was canceled, and we had to stay overnight, and they didn't compass and lost our luggage. And then when we finally got our flight, they're like, yeah, we're offering $2,000 for anybody who wants to get off the plane and give your seat to somebody. And I looked at her, I'm like, $2,000? Yeah. She goes, no, no.
I learned very early to take that.
Some would, but I saw the chaos that was going on, and I'm thinking, no.
Well, I recently read on Facebook, a couple were going on their cruise in Cape Canaveral, and they got on the plane, and then right before they were getting on, they were told that they were being bumped from the flight, and they bought their tickets like 4 months in advance, and they didn't buy any upgrades when they bought the ticket. So like when you buy your ticket, that takes you to the next page, and you have to buy whether you want to sit in premium seating or whatever. Well, they didn't do any of that, so they bumped them, and they missed they missed the cruise, they missed the whole thing. And listening to this story, it's like nobody cares about customer service anymore, right? And that's a service industry, and
well, most of them end up in my Rob versus books. So
I love it. I love it. I love it.
How do people get a hold of you? I know we went over time, but
I know
this was great stories, and I want people to understand that Cliff is the real deal. He's been in the trenches as long as I have, and he's out there to protect you, and he's not sugarcoating anything, and he's not selling you any shiny objects. So where they can find you.
So I have an online presence. It's Cliff G. My name is Cliff Gager. So I said cliffg.me, M-E, like me. That's my main website. If you go there, you can register for my webinar. I'm going to be point blank and honest with you. I have a training program. I took
don't be honest. Nobody's honest.
No. Well, it's the only way to be. I took all the years, and I used to have this 30, 40 lesson training program. And I wanted it to be the most most advanced training course that you could get to be a real estate investor. And then I realized nobody watches it. Right. They watch maybe 5 or 6 videos and then I never hear from them again. Whether they go out there and they become successful or not. I mean, I do track that, but I'm saying for the most part, it overwhelmed people.
Right.
So the feedback I got was it was just too much.
Yeah. Keep
right.
it simple.
So that's what I did. During COVID, I redid my whole program. I believe it's 9 videos. And then I have a wholesaling course that's 3 videos. That's what my webinar is about. You can watch the webinar. It gives you insight about who I am, how I work, and what you can get out of it rather than what I can get out of it. I know what I can get out of it. I can leave you guys alone and I go flip houses and make millions of dollars, or I can help you do it. And I dropped out of school. I'm a 9th grade dropout. I did get my GED, so I kind of cheated. So if you're sitting there and you're listening, anybody can do this. Even a carpet cleaner. No, I'm just kidding. But true. So I put that all into this video thing. I sell it on the webinar. I sell it online for $1,500. If you watch the webinar and you go all the way to the end, I give you a code to enter in at the checkout that gives you $1,000 discount. Why would I give you $1,000 discount? Because I want to make it so that you can't say, oh, it's too much money. I can't afford to do this. $500 to change your life. I can't give it away for free. Like we talked about earlier, then there's no value in it.
Right.
So
everybody, I mean, invest in yourself, and throw some dollars out there because you have to have skin in the game.
And it's super easy, And I've dumbed, I don't like to say I dumbed it down, but I made it so easy to understand that anybody can do it. And really anybody, even if you're a real estate agent, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So I want to thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Adios.
Thanks.